Ciao a tutti, welcome back. Here today with me I have Ömer Güven. Omer did a thousand of things from being an investment banker to a freelancer to entrepreneur to teacher, with some wild trips in the middle. But I will start by order. So, Omer, introduce yourself because I think that's the best way to get to know you.
Thank you so much, Gian, for having me. Yes, I'm Omer. I grew up in Germany, in Hanover, where they actually speak the cleanest German. So it's up in the north, and yeah, so this is where I grew up, and now I grew up actually in a little village north of Hanover, and yeah, now I'm back in a little village. So um, being able to work remotely. And yeah, that's me in a really short version.
And how would you describe yourself in, I don't know, 30 seconds?
I'm super passionate about things that I love to do. Very focused, and I would also say that that I struggle with being very balanced. So if I want something, I get it, but then yeah, and I tend to neglect then all the
Mm.
other things. So yeah, so I'm happy that I have so much support in my life.
So you so you're saying that basically these things that you achieve come with compromise, like you have
Of
to.
course, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. It comes with extremes, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
And a very nice thing is that you were able to describe yourself without making any links to the professional life, so to who you are professionally. Because usually, I was talking to one of my colleagues. She actually is a writer on this topic, and basically, it's very difficult, at least for the majority of people, to introduce yourself without linking this, like your personality to your, work experience. What do you do in life? That is different, like who you are from what you are.
Well, yes, but I think the main reason is that for me, like the professional life is only just one little part of what I'm doing, and basically I try to adapt my professional life to my personal life rather than the other way around. So I think that's a big factor of it.
Perfect. Okay,
So.
and so let's jump now to the professional part of it. If you have to describe what do you do professionally to a person that doesn't know about business and in particular finance, because let's just tell them that you work in, let's say, the finance environment, how would you explain the work you do?
Yes, so basically, we run a platform where we connect investment bankers to projects. But if I had to describe it one layer beneath to someone that actually knows finance, I would say that we are a platform for recovered finance professionals, for especially those that do not define themselves only through their profession, but also have the same attitude to life, that they have other things to do to just work and be 80 to 100 hours a week in the office. So on our platform, you have the full flexibility to take on the projects that you want to work on, or just let it, slip or go, and be not the slave of your managing director or boss.
Mm. This is a fascinating point, even because, let's say, knowing a bit your story, I see a kind of connecting path between these things. Because I remember that basically I read a post in which you were describing your up and down since you were probably 23-ish
Mhm.
when you were working in investment banking. And I remember that you posted something about when you arrived in business class in New York City, and then you are not feeling fulfilled.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
maybe like in already in that part of your life there was something that then took you there where you are today. But let's start from the beginning. So you come from a little village in Germany, and then you decided to study finance.
Mhm. Actually, there was one step between, and this is actually where how basically my initial imagination or love to the US derived from. So, yes, I'm from a little village, 30,000. The population, 30,000 people live in that small village. And I always wanted to move to the US. And basically, back in 2009, military was still mandatory for
Mm.
Germans. And I was the last year that had to do it, but I didn't want to do military. So there's so you instead of doing the civil the military service, you can actually opt for civil service. And usually you do it in a hospital, you do it in an elderly home. But when I do things, like, I like to really drill down on certain stuff. And then I actually found this program with Action Reconciliation Service, which serves the dialogue basically between Jews and Germans as a reconciliation service. And so I ended up applying for this program in Chicago. And so I took care of Holocaust survivors. And so this basically
Okay.
was the reason why I actually, so with 19, moved to Chicago and served there for a year. And this is like, if you know Chicago, it's I don't want to say similar to New York, but as similar impressive, I would say. And basically, this was the reason, like okay, I have to come back to the US, and it really fascinated.
Okay. And now I was thinking at 19, how did you live moving from a small village like in Germany of 30,000 people to Chicago, that is 12 hours flight from where you were?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So first thing, I broke up with my girlfriend. I'm like, okay, yeah, distance is not working, and I'm like, okay, wait, you're going in 1 year. I'm like, yeah, but it's not working. So and I was so sure that I will stay in the US, and basically. I was so much looking forward to that experience, and I saw it actually also as a step between to maybe even go to university in the US. I was very much focused on career, right? So especially if you talk to general, like finance professionals, and how they actually used to be in school. I think everyone who wants to join or go into banking is so focused on career, especially, even if when you're 16, okay, this is like
Yeah.
first step A, B, C. Yeah, so I was the same. So very boring personality, I would say.
Okay.
Very
And the
focused on career.
impact of moving in the US, how was?
I mean, it was crazy. My English was super bad. I mean, I hope it improved a little bit, but back then we couldn't have this conversation. It was like probably my weakest subject in school. So I had initially some difficulties because I hadn't done an exchange semester. But then after 2-3 months, basically, right, it's just flowing when you are in a foreign country. And then you learn about the cultural aspects. I mean,
Mm.
it's now like 13 years ago, but for me, first time in my life, I really like appreciated to be a German, and to kind of value the social system. And also I saw the tragedy on the streets basically back then. And I probably can say that I took some certain things for granted that the German society, or general being a European, provides you.
For example?
Could be okay. So basically, I was watching a movie, right, and then I was having popcorn, and the core of it. I don't know how you call it, but
Yeah,
I was just like,
the
didn't
hard part
like
of it.
the hard part of it. And so I was like, okay, so I bite on this thing, and then like I hear it like cracking. I'm like, okay, okay, that was hard. And then I see that my my tooth came out basically back then. And okay, shoot. And now the situation in Germany is easy, right? So you go to a dentist, and everything is covered. And you remember, I was like 19, and then I went to a dentist and said, "Okay, listen, so we can replace it. It will cost you $5,000." So, and then, okay, I'm insured, right? Oh, no, you have to pay it out of your own pocket. And so this was the first time ever, like, where I had some kind of issue, right? Health issue. And yeah, I had to actually pay for it. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I just wait until I'm back. And to have that option, that you wait right until you are back, that's so valuable. Yeah, it's not normal, right? So
Sure.
um just like the little things.
Got you. So, 19, you moved to Chicago, you spent 1 year there, and then when the investment banking career started to happen.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was very early on everything that I did. Like even for this program in the US, like I applied like 1.5 years in advance, basically, and then
Mm-hmm.
so it was a long process. And so I was supposed to basically come back like in August. And then you had the new career start at the bank in September. So I also secured my place basically at the bank while I was in school, because this is called like a dual track, where on the one hand you do a traineeship, but also do your bachelor's at the same time. So I'm
Mm.
also how do you call, like a banking apprentice or banking professional. Basically,
Yeah.
it's a 2-year program. If you have
And to do that, you have to have, like, the requirement is that you are a super performer at school, university, or other requirements.
Well, so I mean, for those kind of programs, so on the one hand, obviously you have to be good in school, but then you go through an assessment center at the bank, and this is, and I did it at Warburg actually, and this was really crazy, where they only accepted like 4 people, and I was, I think when I did the assessment center. I was like the fourth best, like in the history, since like 1980 or so. That because I've been doing this assessment center for a long time, and so this is like how I got in basically. And it was always my goal to go to an investment bank or private bank, where I get to see sales trading, investment banking. And this is not normal, right? So it's usually, if you look at commercial banks, you have different branches. You have so many different specialized lineups. But in a private bank or investment bank, so especially at Warburg, which is more than 200-year old Jewish bank. So you got to see like everything, every operations basically in one house, and this was a
Okay.
huge advantage, like going forward. Yeah.
And so basically at that age, more or less, how old were you when you entered?
This was like right after US 20. So I was 20. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so you entered, and then basically you were starting to pursue your dream in a way, no? Because you were thinking about that. You thought about that for years.
Hmm.
And so you were somehow achieving let's say, that career that a lot of young people, and I would say especially boys, I wouldn't like to be, let's
Hmm.
say,
Hmm. Hmm.
polarizing on this, but usually this is a kind
Hmm.
of stereotypical career that boys have in mind, like the hustle thing, making money,
Hmm.
being able to reach prestigious positions. So basically you were on that path, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so especially at Warburg, and I wrote another LinkedIn post about that, which got like lots of acknowledgement. So it's a very special privilege to work at Warburg, and so basically, if you look at their private client division. So they only accept clients like starting, I think, from 2 million liquid capital, basically. And so I remember like the first day I was, when I started there, I was actually super nervous, sweating, and I'm like, oh shit, like I don't belong here. Like, you know, my parents are from working class family, and my parents are Turkish, so they came to Germany when they were like around like 10, right? So they didn't get like the primary, or not like the kind of education um, that I got, and obviously German was not their first language. Anyway, so I'm third generation, and so there's no Turkish person really in this bank, right? So it's in Hamburg, everything is like super snobby. So even in the assessment center, it was really crazy. So all the other guys were sitting there and like, okay, so why did you apply here? And this one person's like, oh yeah, my father, so he owns he owns a bank. The other guy's like, oh yeah, my father's portfolio manager. And everyone actually had something to do with were somehow connected to banking. And for me, it was just a yeah, a very special situation. But anyway, so I got it right. I was in the US. I came back, and on my first day, again, like I was very, very nervous to go through these old halls. But I really came in there as a boy and left it like as a man. So I would say, yeah.
This is a question that I don't know if you want or can talk about, but for example, you were just more or less, I would say, my age, because I'm 24. And how much money were you making in New
So
York?
yeah, so I mean, when I started, so I was first doing equity research, and then I went into equity sales. And equity sales, so I dealt with institutional investors, and I was 23. And this is very young for European um, considerations. And this is back in 2000, let me think, 14, right? So I think I was making like 70, 80K or so in total comp. So on my very first year of after bachelor's. Yeah. So
So
and
you were
then
making 80K after bachelor. Okay.
after
Okay.
bachelor's, yeah, I was 23, and again, like it was not about the salary; it was more about, so 80K is like nothing today, but back then, it was a really good start, like compared to, let's say, Big Four. So back then it was so you started at like even with a master's like at 35 or 40K. So it was doubled the amount. So, and even the bonus. So it was the first year, right? And then after that, like I reached above 100. So it's a was a very steep development. But I remember actually when I got my first bonus, it was like 15 or 20K. I mean, it didn't do. So it was the first year, and I remember that. So usually it's more or less like tradition to buy a Rolex. So and I was I received my first check, and okay, now I'm going to buy a Rolex, like a M2 or something right now. And so I went in there, and back then you didn't have to be on a waiting list or whatever. So I go in there, and then they tell me like, okay, yeah, this is like 10 grand. And I'm like, oh, that's you know, that's a lot of money. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not that type of, so why would I buy it? And basically I saw another Swatch shop next to it, right? So I'm like, okay, yeah, let me think about that. And then I went to the Swatch shop, and I bought a watch for 50 euros. And so I remember how disappointed my former boss was. He's like, okay, no, you have to get a Rolex. Like partly joking, but partly also serious, because he thought, okay, if I talk to big clients, actually you have to show basically your value, right? But
Okay.
but that year I ended up really, it was a acquiring really nice clients, including like Goldman Sachs Asset Management. I also took, so one of my clients were also like Harvard Foundation, Dell Foundation, basically. So it took, so I acquired them cold, and And one day, like when I was at a roadshow, a client told me, "Hey, this like really, made some impression that I know how much you guys earn, right? So this that you're actually wearing a watch like this shows like your personality and so this was
That's
early
a nice point
learning.
of view.
So
Because I was remembering, like, you know, on one hand, I understand the thing that you say, okay, if I wear a Rolex, the client would perceive the value I have in terms of professional and the prestige. On the other hand, couldn't that be that seeing a Rolex, the client say, okay, maybe I'm paying this guy too much.
yeah, but in this world, yes, for sure. I mean, if you're talking to, let's say, end clients, but in the financial world, especially institutional world, like
Yeah,
even the portfolio managers are not, they're not betting with their own money, right? It's all LP or investors' money, basically. And so yeah, I
don't pay
just
that much
think
attention to
yes,
these
exactly.
details.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I really and also another story like when I started, so my in equity sales, like just to explain, like you take care of clients that have 100 million and plus assets under management, right? So it's public equities, and like Wall Street, you talk to the portfolio managers, and then if you're convinced that certain stock is going up, or your the equity research division gave you a recommendation, basically. So anyways, you have to build up your you have to take care of clients or accounts. And so my boss, like my boss first like said, okay, so you can speak to clients like earliest like after 6 months. I'm like, okay, why is that? Because they are so big clients and important. After 2 months of like consistently pushing, it's like, okay, so here's the list. You can speak to these clients. And I said, okay, where did you get the list? So yeah, I talked to the other sales equity salespeople, and they said, okay, they are willing to give you these kind of clients. I'm like, okay, if other salespeople are voluntarily giving me their client list, like this list must be the shittest list on in the south. So basically I threw it away. And I said, okay, you know what, I just look at basically the client universe. I look at which clients we have, and basically I pick the largest clients there. And then I started really doing cold calling. I started to write them emails, right? And everyone's like, okay, why are you going into equity sales? It's a shit job. But I was so quantitative oriented, and I said, okay, so I want to bring in my own opinion. I have an own opinion. I know what I'm doing. I worked in equity research before, so I understand like the fundamentals of it. And so I built basically my own quantitative models that where I was also able to discuss stocks outside of our coverage universe, basically. And this ability to really talk to hedge funds on valuation topics was super helpful later on when I moved into M&A, because when it came to discussions around valuation, like this was easy discussions for me, because I was talking to hedge funds all the time on valuation topics. So it was smooth sailing later on in M&A,
Mm.
where you have only one valuation. I was talking to like incremental value stuff, right? So what is priced in, what is not priced in, and what the market basically does not see. And it was also deep on financials, not psychology or behavioral finance, basically. Anyway, so this year I acquired like really big accounts, and this was also helpful on the obviously on the commission side, right?
Sure. And then let's say you were feeling not okay with yourself. What happened?
So, well, I mean, so I was, so my clients were US clients, and I, obviously, like I was a frequent traveler, and yes, I was really proud of myself, right? So, flying business basically, and being at the airport, flying to whatever, Frankfurt, New York, Chicago again, right? So I really thought, okay, I made it. But then the first time actually I landed in New York and I spent 5 days there, I'm like, oh, okay, wait, this is it. So I remember I was at Lazar Asset Management, and Lazar has actually right at Central Park this like crazy view over the Central Park, and like, okay, so well, what's next, right? So is this like this is it, yeah? And so obviously it's employment, right? So you are there, you're covered. Basically, you're going there on behalf of your bank. It's a very typical finance career, but I was 24, and you remember the story was so that I really I don't care too much about material stuff or things, basically, right? And all of a sudden I thought really that so I couldn't believe it, because I lost all the motivation that moment at the peak, basically. It's just like the feeling, right? So okay, you can be sitting in this building, but I didn't like I did. So for me it was clear, okay, this is not what I want to do with my life. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Um, but yeah, so I continued another 2 years. And then went into M&A. But also another reason was that I saw that so many like AI and other tools are keeping up, and that if I was a stock, I would not invest in myself, because I think that brokerage in itself on equity sales is something that will not exist in 10 years. Actually, I was wrong. It still exists and they're still doing good money. But yeah.
So you were saying already some years ago, like let's say 10 years ago, you were seeing some artificial intelligence tool managing
Mhm.
capitals, let's say.
Yeah, so there were actually two, or let's say like three big trends. On the one hand, Aladdin, right? So the BlackRock tool that actually knows the numbers even before McDonald's knows it, before the controllers, financial controllers of McDonald's know their own numbers. Like BlackRock knows basically the indication of the numbers. Why is that? Because they just track the mobile phones of the customers that are kind of surrounding the branch, right? They know what the average spend is, and even before McDonald's can actually process their own numbers, they already know what the traffic is, right? So they use
I didn't know about this. That's wild.
it makes sense, right? It makes sense. So
Yeah.
they look at so many like different stuffs and different indication on utility usage and what have you. Basically, it's for statistical programs. It's not like until you process that and official whatever employment numbers. I mean, it's already processed by the big guys, and so it just, for me, it didn't make sense. Like, you get a report, you're like, oh yeah, okay, what are the assets, what is the cash flow, yeah. And it's like Charles Munger died, like rest in peace yesterday, but the colleague of Warren Buffett, right? So fundamentals
Yeah.
on so balance sheet and cash flow and what have you. But what you can achieve with advanced analytics data and what hedge funds use and big asset managers is so much more powerful than equity research, even though they have their own justification on why they exist, right? But anyway, so this is point one. Then you have point two, which is MiFID regulation. So I said portfolio managers are managing money of others, and as an equity salesperson, you get paid for recommendation and also for the execution. And it used to be bundled. So you give so you are close with your equity sales or with your broker. You do wine and dine, right? You have nice wine, you have nice steak, and then it's like, okay, you know what, I like you, so here's so I do the trade via you. Now they have to, it's so there's an unbundling that happened. Basically, now you have to pay for research extra and for the trade. So you really have to justify your expense if you spend money, right? These are like these were like the two main
Hmm.
reasons, and the third reason is I really like in a private bank, like you have to wear like a tie, and actually in the sales trading floor they didn't have, like, you couldn't open the windows, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I actually can't do this work remotely anyway. So what am I doing here? I can talk to, have a screen, also at my home. So
Yeah.
I didn't understand why I have to come to the office actually.
Okay, and let's jump. After New York, what happened?
So then so what I did, I quit. I quit equity sales. I quit banking, and then I rented a Harley, and for basically 6 weeks, and basically took that bike for a ride in Florida. Spent 6 weeks there, and then I moved into to mid-market M&A boutique because I really like finance. I like valuation.
Can you explain our listeners what M&A is?
Yeah, so M&A, mergers and acquisitions, is if, for example, we were mostly on the sell side. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you build a company and now you want to sell your company to either a strategic buyer or a financial investor to further grow it, you need to initiate a sales process. So you need to evaluate how much your company is worth, your business that you have built over the years, and it's a one-time event, right? So you are selling your baby, so to say, and so you need to work with M&A advisors to find or to go through that the process which comes with. Yeah, so you need to coordinate like legal advisors, you need to understand your own business, you need to negotiate with
Okay.
buyers, and this is like a 6 months heavy process that takes lots of attention.
To twist a bit the discussion, going more on the personal side, I remember that once you also, when we were discussing on another occasion, you also mentioned that basically you were undecided whether to, for example, go for a diving course, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
because you wanted to change in a
Mhm.
way drastically what you were doing.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you explain us what was the situation in that case?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So again, like the same. So what? So same thing in M&A. You wear a suit, you wear a tie, and I hate, like, after a certain time you just hate wearing ties, and it doesn't. I mean, like, you can say whatever you want, but you have to wear ties. Like, so back then it was the case, and basically there were like two things. Like, I hated my tie, and I also like suit, right? So you ask me, okay, how do I define my personality? Yes, there are uh, um, so many people that define themselves over their looks, and their suits, and their ties and watches, right? So many. I hate that, and I was always about, okay, so tell me what you have in your mind, and actions speak louder than words, basically. And this whole industry is always like about ties and suits and whatever, right? And I hated that industry in the sense that I didn't like the environment I was playing in. And so what I did was, I was on vacation in Thailand. I was doing a diving course, and so my boss, so managing partner, he's like, okay, you have to come back on a Friday. So, and even like he was bothering me because of this, like, whatever, second comma number in a model. I'm like, man, like,
Bullshit.
just like, yeah. So I'm okay, just like turn off my phone. And anyway, so like, okay, you have to be back on a Friday. It's like, okay, anyways, okay, I will be back on a Friday because otherwise I could have spent two more days on vacation basically. Anyway, so I'm back in the office on a Friday, sitting there in my suit in my office, and I'm like, okay, you know what, yeah, fuck that shit. So I went over there, I quit. I was like, you know what, okay, I do my projects and finish the projects. That's fine because I have an obligation towards obviously the clients and so on. And so we had like two.
On that exact day, on that Friday?
Well, no, yeah, like not like so two, like really
Okay.
2 hours later. I I arrived at 10, and then I'm like, okay. I went for lunch. I came back. I'm like, oh, shit, okay, and
I
then
quit.
like, okay, I quit. And so what I did, I finished the project. I was there, for another like 3 months basically, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to become a diving instructor. So took a one-way flight to Thailand. Um, want to go to the island. I'm like, okay, if I go back to the islands to the south, I will never make it to north of Thailand, which is beautiful. Basically, what happened is I never made it to the island. 1.5 years, looking forward. I rent another bike in North Thailand, and basically what I did, like this was in Chiang Mai. I passed by a university. I saw this, there was like Chiang Mai Business School, and I'm like, okay, let me meet the students. I met the dean. He's like, oh yeah, do you want to teach? I'm like, yeah, I actually still have my Bloomberg account. So yeah, okay, let me do some real examples and case studies. And so this is what I did, like gave like workshops and just like for fun, right? I was there, had a nice package basically from the bonus of the closed
Hmm.
and overall, I mean, I was doing so there I was 26 or making like above 150k. So this is and then got a nice bonus basically, and I'm okay, so just let me do so I, just like traveling, and yeah, so I went from Thailand to Laos, throughout Vietnam. I spent a month in Bali, 1 month Philippines, all like really with a bike, except for Bali. But anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, and then I decided to stay in Vietnam. Actually, my original plan was to go to Australia because they have a shortage of finance people. But when I was in Bali, there were so many Australians. I'm like, shit, I'm not going to Australia. Yeah, so because Australia is like the Mallorca for Germans, right? So you go there and you have all these crazy Germans in Mallorca. The same actually for
Okay.
Bali. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going there. And so I'm probably like still not. I don't know. Let's see. But anyway, so I really fell in love with Vietnam, and yeah, I'm still in love with that country.
Okay. And at that point, basically, I mean, I don't know if that's the point or it's right after, but you also kind of switched or tweaked a bit your career direction. I mean, you became, correct me if I'm wrong, freelancer
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
So you passed from being an employee to being a freelancer, now an entrepreneur. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a escalation and evolution.
yeah.
How did it go?
Yes, so true. It's an evolution. So you remember, I don't like ties. I love finance, and I like being on a motorbike and travel. So, and I'm really good in acquiring clients. So basically, what happened is, so I started. So I was like, okay, so why can I not do valuation? And I'm a CFA charter holder, right? So somehow, and I believe that you can do everything in your shorts because it doesn't it doesn't matter how you look like, right? So all these aspects, somehow it just makes sense to go into freelancing, right? And so being an investment banker in shorts basically. So what happened is I have this toolkit. I can do financial model, I know M&A, I speak German, English, and I really like what I do, right? And so basically what happened is I acquired and called up clients, private equity firms, and acquired like projects that way. So made a little presentation about myself, like very authentic on who I am, basically. And yeah, I started with doing some, whatever market research, valuation, and
Yeah, explain me the acquisition process. Like, how did you do? You say I did a bit of presentation on myself. Okay, but how? Like,
it's
you
a,
know, it's not
yeah.
that.
The same way how you acquire, how we do it today, right? So is you look at past acquisitions or very active private equity firms. You look at Crunchbase. You see like who actually raised money, who's probably about to raise money. You have the decision makers, which is the CEO, CFO, whatever, and you contact them, and it's a numbers game. So you don't need too many projects. I mean, so I was fully booked. I mean, I was doing, and this is very interesting actually. I was making talking about numbers. I was making 15K, also 150K or something a year, but with a difference that the place that where I I was living is 5 times cheaper. So
Yeah, it was
and
like
and so
300 a
so
month.
yeah. And
Yeah.
especially in Bali, like I was renting like this big ass villa, and I'm like, that's lots of space. I don't know what to do with that space. So and so basically, yeah, so yeah, this was it was fun, right? And I got to choose like what projects I take on, and I had actually no boss that was really getting on my nerves, right? Or dictated me to,
Hmm.
work on a model. So obviously, I love my clients, and yeah, that way. I worked with actually also startups, with more mature companies, and had very interesting projects going on.
When the part of being an entrepreneur comes in, like from you.
Yeah. So I mean, we were done with with basically so creating ventures. So like, okay, now we have deployed the money, and I'm like, okay, it's actually quite cool. Like I'm recruiting all these founders. So and somehow I felt myself in a super weird position, being this finance guy, M&A, and then I come up with these ideas, I recruit founders, and I really see the founders, struggle, help them, struggle along and fight for their venture. And I'm there and like, oh yeah, do you have, I need the numbers, end of month, and what about the reporting? And basically, one day I'm like, actually, it's not really creating value. It's just, it's just, so I want to be
Hmm.
a founder. It's really
Okay.
interesting to see these guys working and building something, bonding with their hires and the team members, and seeing them also grow. And so and then yeah, well, for me, I always knew about obviously the freelancing marketplaces like Upwork, Fiverr,
Sure.
freelancer.com. And then also I saw like, whatever, like co-match, right, for strategy, or business consultant, Catalan. And I'm like, so what about M&A? What about like my personal story in this? I mean, I cannot be the only one who thinks that, you can do finance remotely. So I looked at the general statistics about like, okay, so what's actually happening to the finance world, and I see like accountants being outsourced to Philippines, Vietnam,
Yeah.
India, and I see like everything that's going on in the finance space, and then I'm like, okay, so there must be a kind of an opportunity, and thought about this and thought, okay, maybe does it make sense to do financial modeling work? Does it make sense to outsource that? And I was convinced that this could be an idea, right? So that works. So to go for cheaper. But then I like shortly after I realized, hey, actually in finance, especially not in M&A, it's not about, okay, I pay this guy $40 an hour or this like $80 an hour. It's not about that. It's really about the sector knowledge. It's really about the network, the experience within an industry. And
Hmm.
the shortage on the buy side. There is enough advisors taking care of the sell side. But if I want to buy a company and I'm highly acquisitive, I need someone who understands insurtech. I need someone to understand
Sure.
whatever marketplaces, e-commerce, all different business models. You have that in infrastructure, renewables, hydro energy, oil, gas, 2,900 industries. In pharma, you have life science, you have whatever, right? You have so many different areas. And where are the M&A advisors who are specialized in this field?
Sure.
They are on the corporate side or they're highly specialized. And so it doesn't make sense to create a boutique and say, I'm very specialized in this because you are not offering your service globally, right? In Germany or
Yeah.
whatever. So so this is a conflict in itself. And I said, okay, well, this is it, like this. So we can offer a freelance marketplace where on the buy side you can offer your services globally to every client out there. The clients can access that kind of knowledge globally. And this is what we built. Now we are the largest platform for M&A freelancers globally with 3,000 professionals. And
Hmm.
80% of them have actually buy-side experience. So this is the reason why we work with eBay or with other large companies that we are able to support.
When did you found it?
2019.
2019.
Mhm.
And yeah, exactly. I was remembering also that we talked about the COVID
Oh,
happening. That was a kind of pivotal
yeah, yeah. So,
happening.
okay, I had this idea. Yeah, okay. It makes sense if I tell you this, right? So, okay, now, and you remember I said, okay, so I was trying to acquire clients as a freelancer. It was a hell of a job because, so this is for from, but so like, hey, remote? No, there's no way, so that you can do remote M&A. Highly confidential. I cannot explain that to my CEO, to my CFO. Forget it. It's not possible. And if you look at generally like finance jobs that can be done remotely, is above 90%. If you look at the actual finance jobs that is done remotely, is like below 10%. This
Yeah.
is pre-COVID. So I'm like, okay, anyways, time in the market is more important than timing. Let's build it, right? So, I was starting, so basically I was not like going all in. I knew it's a B2B business model. It will take a long time, but it's fine. I have time, right? I'm young, not too young anymore, but like, but, I just turned, back then 30 in 2019. Anyway, so I was doing like my PhD. And this is the reason why I also came back to Liechtenstein, my PhD in blockchain. I'm like, okay, I have time. I just do my PhD and then I have my PhD and hopefully I have built a business and risk diversification and it's bootstrap, right? Anyway, so I start FinTalent in October 2019, and so it's it's a new idea where I know, okay, for me, like it works. And then we see the initial traction basically. So I acquire clients. Obviously, we don't have talents. We don't have a pool. It's really, hey, are you interested in a project? Okay, you are. Okay, you go on LinkedIn, you find that a person. You're like, hey, and then you coordinate. So right, it's not the 20% cut model. There's no onboarding or anything like that. It's super
It's
manual.
like
Yeah,
it was like an on demand
yeah, sure thing.
supply.
Sure thing. And I sold myself, so I would manage the project. So this
Sure.
is obviously the trust building and stuff, right? And then you outsource it, and so you manage the project. It's called like managed project, basically. So at the same time, we are building the platform for the talent side, and so we have to we have to obviously show the talent, the talent, the project. And obviously what do you do? Like, you fake it, right? You have like projects, you fake the projects, obviously. Like, this is how Reddit started. They, like, the founders were doing like their own comments and, interactions basically. Anyway, so this was at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, like, COVID hits, right? This is so in Europe,
2020.
like 2020 in March, right? So just like 3-4 months later, and then boom, it's dead, right? And my co-founder is colleague from Fram that I used to work with. So he was actually selling Vietnamese commercial teams or developer teams to European clients. So he was also very good in sales. Then when COVID hit, all the external budgets erased. So you could not speak to anyone because everyone was in panic. This was the first wave. And basically this was the moment where my co-founder and I actually went apart. Like, so we said, okay, what should we do? We made, I don't know, like maybe 50K or so in 2-3 months, and we're like, okay, so what should we do? So we have two options. Either we continue building the product and trying to sell, and or we split. So or we so we continue as we do, but I don't think that basically. So we didn't believe that you can actually sell anything, right? And also my co-founder was not believing that he could sell anything. I mean, it was impossible to sell
Hmm.
something in the market. And so what happened is that so that we decided that I want to build the product, and he wanted his basically share of the money. So we evenly split it, and so I was continuing building the product, but we didn't like make any revenues. It was impossible.
Okay.
Impossible.
But COVID accelerated the, let's
No,
say,
forget it. Like, initially, not at all. So it was like, so I was
okay, it was a
basically, I
dumb,
was,
okay,
yeah, I was, so basically, like, this is after the first wave, and all the external budgets were frozen. Nothing, no M&A going on, nothing. And then basically, so the second wave hit, and I'm like, shit, like now, so my money is gone basically. Like, okay, so I'm eating spaghetti, having my salary from the university, basically, of doing my PhD, paying the developers with that, making this former friend of mine, like my second co-founder, like in CTO.
okay.
We are building, everyone is working for like minimum money, and we are probably like 2-3 weeks away from just like closing it down. And I'm like, oh shit, like, so this is done, right? And then, so what happens is we finished the talent side. We see talent onboarding. We managed to reduce our cost base, and I have more time to sell. M&A cycle is picking up, and all of a sudden, so I then started to build up my advisory board. I managed to get the head of M&A of Volkswagen on our board, the head of M&A of DWS, who's now operational, also involved. And all of a sudden, you see like everyone in Finian announcing, hey, we did M&A fully remotely. Hey, we did M&A. We are so proud of these teams. Like, we managed to do it remotely. We hired remotely. We worked with these guys remotely. And I'm like, okay, now, so this is after the second wave. And then, okay, maybe it's just momentum or whatever. And then you have the third wave, the fourth wave, all the budgets, like, they go, free, and funding goes up, right? All of a sudden, like, scale ups are doing M&A. Everyone is doing M&A. They like, there's a
Hmm.
huge shortage of IT professionals, whatever. And then basically what happens is, at the same time, M&A people are like, wait, Salomon, like they want us to go back, like the CEO of Goldman. So the tech world is booming. Everyone is working in shorts now. Don't have to go back to the office, right? So Apple, Google, everyone is announcing, hey, remote work, the future.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, investment banks say, hey, you know what, guys, come back to the office. We have something for you. And they're like, oh no, fuck that. And so what happens is so all these like great investment bankers, M&A people leave. They're like, oh no, I'm not going back into the office. I really enjoyed it.
Sure.
And this is a moment where really like the jackpot hit for us, where we saw so much flow on the client side, on the talent side, basically, that we grew to now 3,000 professionals, like top, like even from private equity background, the top investment banks, and so now we are 13 people full time.
Basically, the jump in business and let's say in the quality, of course, of your services was done because of the talent you were able to acquire.
Yes, it's always, and then the shortage of talent, clearly, like the war of talent was real.
Sure.
It was about, hey, who offers the most flexibility? Back then, 2021, and it was at the same time where the banks asked the talent to come back to the office, and money was just like super cheap and interest rates low.
Yeah,
Right?
we're zero. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this was perfect because this helped us probably. I don't know if it's 5 years, if we ever had like gotten to this point where where the market and all these like coincidence happened at the same time, that really, so that we were ready, right? So I mean, 2002, you have like, oh yeah, I built, so you have M&A marketplaces coming, then they're disappearing again, right? But we were there at the right time, and we were
Yeah.
already figuring out stuff. We knew what works, what doesn't, right? I know myself what works in M&A, freelancing or not. I know all these shitty like Upwork platforms, what works and what doesn't, right? And so, but we were already there when the main wave actually came and
Showed up.
yeah.
Yeah. And Omer, just to conclude our conversation, I want you to briefly explain me the rule that I found the most inspiring in your company. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Any guesses?
That talent is borderless, or the no asshole policy. Do you mean that? Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. It's very easy. So no one wants to deal with assholes, and especially in a world of investment bankers, you actually have lots of assholes. And this is true for clients and for obviously the talents. And you don't want someone that thinks that he's God's gift to the world, basically. So no one needs that. And there's enough arrogance in this world, so we established this principle, and it works very well. And luckily, we can say that no client is big enough to really impact fin talent, and also no talent is important enough to impact
Okay.
fin talent. But we say always talent first, because the talent actually that joined our platform initially, like they believed in us, and they made a huge impact on everything that we are now.
Perfect. Wonderful. Great conversation.
Thank you.
I have no further question. It was a very nice pleasure to have this possibility to talk with you. And I hope you have a great night.
Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you for having me.